How are you all? Welcome to Ask IITians. I hope you all are doing very well. You all are very good. So, today we are here to study a new chapter that is called as the physical and chemical changes. Okay, and students, before starting this chapter, I would like to tell you that this chapter is very important, and even though you will be finding out this topic in your class 10th as well, so that means you are going to study somewhat your board examination topic, if I can say, or like you are going to have when, for example, now you are in class 7th, and when you are going to a class 10th, at that point you will be knowing what is the physical changes and chemical changes. Isn't it a good thing for you? Exactly, student. So that's how we are going to start today this session, and that is called as the physical and chemical changes. So before starting this session, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Arushi Sharma, and I'll be a chemistry teacher. And maybe you can say for like we are going to study this chapter together, so that's why I'll be a chemistry teacher for this chapter, I can say. So that's how we are going to start today's chapter, that is the physical and chemical changes. Now what we are going to find out in this chapter, student, like if I give you some overview about this chapter, or if I talk like what these physical changes and chemical changes contain. Okay, so for that, student, if I ask you one question, that you are living in a in a world where every time there is a change. Exactly, like if I ask you that before watching this video, what you were doing, maybe you were doing some homework, your school homework, or maybe you are watching TV, or you were doing some another kind of work. So that's how you are seeing, like you can say that we are always doing some kind of changes in our life, and even though there are so many changes which are going around us, in which we are not involved, but exactly so many changes are going around us. For example, if I talk about change in day and night. Exactly, so what kind, so you can say that the day of it's a kind of the change which is very important and which is very obvious. If there is a day, so after there will be night, obviously. Exactly. Now, some of the students are going to ask me one question. No, ma'am, it's not like that, because some of the areas are there which are having days for like 6 months, or that like some duration of time, and after that there will be night. So I'm talking about general situation. So that's how, student, you can see that the changes are always going around us. For example, now I'm in front of you, okay, and I'm using my hand while teaching you something. Exactly, right now my hands are here, and if I remove, like if I put my hands down, so that is also a kind of change. Exactly, if my pen is here and I move my pen here and there, it is also a kind of change. So we can see that so many changes are going around us, and today we are going to see that how we can say that what kind of changes are chemical changes and what kind of changes are physical changes. So it will be an interesting thing for you, so just watch this session with a great attention. And that's how now we are starting this chapter. Okay, so if I show you one thing, that these are the topic, students, which we are going to cover in today's class, that is the physical and chemical properties. I'll tell you that why there is physical and chemical properties. Then we are going to see physical changes and the chemical changes with their properties, and as well as with their examples. Okay, so now why I have mentioned the physical and chemical properties, because, student, we are going to see two type of the changes, that is the physical changes and the chemical changes. And see, student, whenever there is some change, so obviously some property is going to be changed. So whenever there is a change in the physical property, we call it as the physical change, and whenever there is the change in the chemical properties, we call it as a chemical change. Okay, now you'll say, ma'am, what is the physical properties and what is the chemical properties? How we will come to know that whether which type of property is going to change, and then we'll say that it is a physical change or a chemical change. Exactly. So don't worry about it. We are here to read all of these things. Okay, so now what we are going to discuss is that what are the physical properties and what are the chemical properties. Okay, so, students, like there are several changes we come across daily. Example, like there are some example: dissolving sugar in water. I hope like everyone has seen this thing, like the when there is a dissolving sugar in water, or flattening a metal rod by heating it. Okay, flattening a rod metal, like a metal rod, by heating it. These involve changes in the form of the substance, and changes occur due to change in properties such as the physical properties and the chemical properties. Now, student, what is the physical properties and the chemical properties? See, the changes which are going on around us, that they have given you some example: dissolving sugar in water, flattening a metal rod by beating it, or even though there are so many changes which are going around, like you can say like we can say melting of ice, freezing of ice, or burning of water. Well, not exactly burning, boiling of water, or burning of paper, burning of wood, burning of coal. So many changes are going around us, and after some changes we'll get some another type of substance, or in so that's how, student, the change has been occurred, and those change occurred due to the change in their properties. Now, what are these properties, student? So first of all, we are going to discuss about the physical properties. So physical properties include size, shape, color, state of a substance. See, student, what are the physical properties? Have you ever noticed, like someone says you this thing, that if someone asks you this thing, that his physique is very good, or her physique is very good. So what we are saying about that physique, like from that word physics, what we want to say? So from physics, student, we say that his physical properties are good. Now, physical properties are what type of properties? Which you can like which These are the properties which you can determine by just observing something. Okay, so if I write down here that by observing something, and we come to know about that what color it is having, or what shape it is having, size it is having, so we call such properties as the physical properties. Okay, like for example, if I ask you the physical properties of this pen, so this pen, you can see here that now you'll say, ma'am, if I ask you that how this pen is looking, so you'll say, ma'am, this is having some kind of cylindrical shape, and ma'am, it is thin. Like if I talk about its size, so it is thin, or you can say not exactly thin, it is thick one actually, because the pens which we use in our school or colleges, or for writing purpose, so they are very thin, but this is actually thick, and it is of the black color. So, and like if I talk about its state, that whether it is in the liquid state, or the solid state, or in the gas state, so you say, ma'am, it is solid one, because I can't break down it easily. I hope you know what is the solid, liquid, and gases. Like if we talk about solid, so something which we can't break down easily. Liquid, like water. Gas, like the vapors form. So that's our, student, all of these properties that which determine, like which we determined only observing that particular substance, and we talk about their size, shape, color, and state. We call such properties as the physical properties. Fine. I hope you got the point about the physical properties. So by looking at something, and if you are able to determine its properties, so such properties are called as the physical properties. Okay, like a student, if I talk about change in size, so whenever you are blowing the balloon, okay, so first of all, the size is very small, but when you start blowing the air in the balloon, so after some time, what you'll observe that the size is going to be increased. First it is like this, and when you blow more air, so the size is going to be increased. That first it is small, after it is big. And for example, students, like first of all, when you plant any tree, so it is maybe of this much size, but after some time you'll observe that this is of this much size also, that the length has been increased. So you can see, student, when the size increasing, size decreasing, or the shape, if we talk about color, like whether like for example, if I talk myself, that students, what you are observing right now, so you'll say, ma'am, right now what I can observe from you, that you are having Ask IITian logo, and you are using your pen, and you are using your hands, and you are wearing a black color sweater. So all are these things, student, which you are observing by looking at me. It's just that you are observing my physical properties. So that's a, student, whenever there is a change in the physical properties, so we call it as the physical change. So that is why we are having one type of the change, that is the physical change, whenever the size, or the shape, or the color, or if we can say the state, like solid, liquid, gas state of the substance got changed, so we call it as the physical change. Fine. Now coming to the chemical properties. Now what are the chemical properties, students? So chemical properties include change in chemical composition of a substance. See, whenever there is a physical property, so it's just that, student, we see that there is a kind of we see that whenever we are observing anything, so we are noticing it physical property. But if we talk about chemical property, so in the chemical property we say about their chemical composition, student. Like there you will say that something chemically is going to be changed, and that's how we say it is a chemical property. Okay, and how that is the chemical composition is changing, and how they are like resulting into any other substance, so we'll see that part. So wherever, like, now what you have to understand is, whenever there is a change in the physical properties, so we call it as the physical change. And whenever some change occur in the chemical composition of a substance, chemical composition, student, maybe their chemical formula is going to be changed, maybe their some chemical properties is going to be changed. So such type of changes, we call them as the chemical changes. And see, now you say, ma'am, example. So definitely, student, we are going to see all of these examples right now about the physical and chemical changes. It's just that right now what you have to learn is that what are the physical properties and what are the chemical properties, and why there are so many changes are going around us. It's just that, student, whenever there is a change in the physical properties or in the chemical properties, so we observe physical change and the chemical change. Okay, and we'll see that what are the other properties of the physical change as well as the chemical change. Fine. So just for now, it's just that we have to see the physical properties and the chemical properties. So that is how, whenever there is a change in the physical properties, like in the change in size, shape, or the color or the state, we call it as the physical property. So, or whenever there is the chemical properties includes the chemical composition. Okay, like whether it's chemical formula or the chemical properties, and we'll see that how it is changing. So now let's move to the physical change and the chemical change, and in that we'll read that what is particularly physical change and the chemical change. Okay, so now physical changes, student. First of all, so physical changes, any change to the physical properties of a substance is called a physical change. As I already told you that whenever there is a change in the physical properties of a substance, we call it as the physical change. And see, student, what is the, like, whenever there is a change in size, or we can say change in color, or if we observe like change in shape, or change in state, so whenever these type of observations are there, such type of changes are called as the physical changes. See, student, now change in color, maybe sometime you will see that the color is going to be changed and you can reverse that thing. So we'll see that how these all these things are going on. So first of all, like if I take if you can see in this picture also, like this glass contain one ice cube. Okay, this is the ice, student, this is the ice cube. Fine. And this ice cube is melting to the water, that is the liquid water. That means it is the melting process is going on right now. But student, if I say that this water, when you freeze this water, like on the freezing process, it again converts into the ice. Exactly, that whenever there is the ice, and if you melt, like if you put out that ice into the open surrounding, so what will happen, it will melt into the water. But when again you will put that water into the freezer and you freeze it for some time, so after some time what you'll observe that there is the ice cube. So that's how, student, you can see that whenever there is a change in their state, how, like ice is a solid state and the water is the liquid state. Exactly. But if we talk about its chemical composition, that the ice is also the water particle, so water is what, it is H2O only. So its chemical composition, that is the H2O, will remain same, and in the liquid also it is also remaining the same. So that's how, student, you can say that the physical changes are those type of changes in which the physical properties are going to be changed but the chemical composition will remain same. So such type of changes are called as the physical changes. Okay, so this is the example of change in state. Now if we talk about change in size, so if I give you one example here, like there is a balloon. Okay, there is a balloon, and if you blow more air into it, so maybe its size is going to be changed. But if you release that amount of the air from that, again it could be convert into that shape, that size. So that's a student that could be say like change in size as well, or change in shape as well. So that's how the student, whenever there is a change in their shape and their size, so we call it as the physical changes. And see students, so we but their chemical compositions is not going to be changed. So that's how student, if you observe here, that whenever we are having the solid state and when it is converting into the water state, and again water state is converting into the solid state, so that's how you can see that the changes is going on over the change in the state, that there is only the change in their physical properties, whereas the chemical composition will remain same. So such type of changes are called as the physical changes. Okay. Now students, we are going to see some of the properties and some of the example of the physical changes. Okay. So student, now you have to see something very very carefully, so that you will be knowing the properties. See student, whenever physical changes are there, so usually they are reversible. How reversible? Like how we are saying them as reversible. Example, if you are having water, okay, and if you are boiling that water, so what you are getting from it? You are getting that vapors. But if you collect those vapors and if you freeze them again, and that process is called as the condensation process. So one is the boiling process and another one is the condensation process. So in condensation process, student, what will happen, that the vapors will again convert into the water. So that means student, you can see that there is the change in state. Exactly, the change in state is going on. Change in state is there, because this is the liquid state and this is the gaseous state. So there is a change in state, and change in state is what type of change? It is a type of the physical change. But whenever there is student, when the process can be reversed, so we call it as the reversible processes. Okay, so it is the example of the reversible processes. So student, usually physical changes are reversible in nature, but it's not like that every physical change is a reversible. For example, like if I talk about plant, like when plant grows, so you can see that the change in size, that the change in length is there. But we can't, like once the plant has been grown up, so it's not like that we can reduce its size. Exactly, so it is a type of the irreversible. But due to the change in the length, that its physical properties changing, so we consider it as the physical change, but it is not the reversible one. Exactly, so we have to observe this thing, whether the physical change is going on, but we have to see that whether that particular process can be repeat, or sorry, not repeat, but whether it can be reversed or not. So we call it as the reversible change or the non-reversible change. So student, what happened, generally physical changes are reversible in nature, and there will be no new substances formed. No new substance means, see student, when the water is there and when it is converting into the vapor, and vapor is converting into the water, so you will see that there is only water. No, like no other substance is going to be formed at that point. So student, this is the another property of the physical change, that physical changes are usually reversible. Second, that they don't formed any new substance. Okay, so that's the physical change, and it is the same substance but with the changed physical properties. Like it is the same substance, but you will see that its physical properties has been changed. Like it's today, it is water, H2O only. First it is in liquid, but when you boil it, so it just that it converts into the vapor form, but it will remain the H2O. So that's a student, we can say that whether the substance will remain same, but it's just that whenever that particular substance will undergo the physical change, so what will happen, that their physical properties are going to be changed, but it will remain same as it is. Okay, so that's a student, what we have seen in the physical changes, that the physical changes are those type of changes in which physical properties change but chemical composition will remain same. And secondly, some of the physical, like usually we can say that these are reversible in nature, and no new substance is going to be formed from that. Okay, and it's just that there is a change in the physical properties. Fine. Now you can observe some of the physical changes example here. Like it is the crushing of can. So crushing of can, student, you can see like when you just try to press it, so it will again like you can say regain its shape actually. Fine. Now it's the melting of the ice cube. Exactly, when it is melting the ice cube, so it is converting into the liquid, and you can convert back this liquid into the water. Boiling of water. Exactly, we have seen here that it is the boiling of water converting into the vapors, and you can condense those vapors and back into the liquid. So that's how you can see this. Some of the example has been there. So breaking of glass. Exactly, dissolving of sugar in water. Okay, we'll explain here. Dissolving of sugar in water. Okay, so what happens, student, in this case? Like if I show you something, see, like this is a glass. Okay, I'm just trying to make a good drawing for you. Okay, and it is having this much of water. Okay, this is water. Fine. Now for ice cube, what color should I use? Oh, eyes are crystals are white in color. So what color should I use? Okay, just make use of what color? Tell me. Okay, I'm just using this color. Okay. So these are the sugar cubes. Okay, just imagine. Okay, so this is what? This is sugar. Now, students, what happened when you dissolve this sugar into this water? So, what you'll observe at that point, that this is the glass which you were having, and now it is having the water along with the some sugar particles. Okay, so now when you stir it, so you will find it out that the sugar is going to be dissolved into the water, and you when you drink the that water, so it tastes sweet, exactly because of the presence of the sugar. So you can say that this is the sugar solution. Fine, and it tastes sweet. But student, you will reverse this process. Like you can reverse this process. How you can reverse this process? What you can do is that the water, we know this thing that the water is able to convert into the vapor. So what we can do, that we can boil this sugar solution, and what will happen, that all of the water can convert into the vapors by heating it, and the sugar will left behind. So that's how, student, we can separate the sugar and water again. So that's how we are reversing this process. That is why the dissolving of sugar is a kind of the physical change. Fine. It's just that, student, what we are doing, that we are converting the physical state of the sugar. Like first the sugar here, if you observe, it is in the solid state, and when we mix it into the water, so it convert into the liquid state. But when we give some heat to it, so what will happen, water will evaporate, and the sugar will again convert back into the solid form. So that's how, student, we can reverse this process by the boiling, so that the water will get evaporate out and the sugar will left behind. And that is why, student, the dissolving of sugar in water is a kind of the physical change. Okay, so this is the one thing. Now mix, so you can see here that some of the examples are also giving to you. So that's a, student, on the basis that whether you are able to reverse that process or not, so we call them as the physical changes. Or like whenever there is a change going on, or like going on according to their physical properties are changing, so we call them as the physical changes, as we have seen here. So these are the physical changes, student, and some of the physical change, like we have seen the properties of the physical changes and the examples as well. Fine. So till now we have discussed about the physical changes. Now what we are going to discuss is, we are going to discuss about the chemical changes. Fine. So now chemical changes, student. In the chemical change, student, what will happen, that the chemical changes involved whenever there is a change in their chemical composition. So we call it as the chemical changes. And student, what will happen in this case, that the change in which one or more new substance are formed, that particular type of change is called as the chemical change. For example, you can see in this picture that this the tissue paper roll, that tissue paper roll which is here, it is a kind of the paper only. So we can see that the burning of paper, so burning of paper is what, student, that whenever the burning of paper is done, so after the burning process, what will happen, that there is the ashes only, that it will remain like ash will be there. So that's a, student, you can see after burning of the paper, it convert into the ash. So you can see that all of the properties has been changed. Exactly, first it was a paper, but after burning of it, what you are getting, it is just ash. So you can see that there is the formation of the new substance. So such such type of the changes, student, are called as the chemical changes. And even though, student, if I ask you, will you be able to reverse these ashes to again back to the paper? Exactly, no. Why? Because ashes are, you can see, it is the black color kind of powder. Exactly. And the paper is a white color pure paper. You know, like you will say, ma'am, what you are talking about, that paper is what? So, but what I'm trying to tell you is that you can't convert back ash into the paper. So that's how physical changes, like some of the like usually we talk about chemical changes, are irreversible in nature. Like if we have talk about the physical changes, so in the physical changes, what we have seen, like water is converting into the liquid. Oh, sorry, water is liquid only. Like water is converting into the vapors, or the vapor is converting into the liquid, and even though ice is converting into the water. So that's how we have seen that thing. But in that condition, the processes are reversible, and what is happening, like only their physical properties are changing, but the chemical composition is remaining same. Even though if we talk about the dissolving of sugar in the water, so what was going on, student, that the sugar is there, and when you adding it into the water, so what will happen, that when you are separating it, so the water is will remain into its chemical form, that is the H2, and the sugar will remain in its form. So that's how you are reversing that process. But if here in the chemical changes, if you will observe that whenever there is a burning of paper or any other change is occurring, in which the some another new substance is formed, so in that process we are not able to reverse that thing. And when we are not able to reverse that thing because of the change in the chemical properties, such changes are called as the chemical changes. Okay, students. So that's how we are having the two changes, physical changes and the chemical changes. So these are the changes, student. And even though if we talk about some of the example here, like curding of milk, curding of milk, student, what happened, that first of all we are having the milk, and when it converts into the curd, so what will happen, it will having some sour taste. And when it is having the sour taste, because its chemical property has been changed into, what happened, that the bacteria which we, like what happened, like whenever we have to make the curd from the milk, so it's just that we take some amount of the milk in one of the container or in one of the utensil, and what happens, student, that we add 2 or 3 drops of the curd. Okay. And after that, what happens, student, that the bacteria which is present into the curd, so start like what it will do, that it will start converting the milk into the curd, due to which what happens, student, that the acidity, like acidic character in the milk increases, and due to which the milk convert into the curd. And that's how, student, you can see that the physical properties are changing. Like first, the milk which we are drinking, it is having different taste, and whenever there is the curd, we can find out we can't convert that curd back into the milk. Or will you be able to convert that? Exactly, no. So that's a, student, whenever such processes are there which we can't convert back. And even though, like when there is a milk, and when you convert it into the curd, and its reverse is not possible, so such type of changes are called as the chemical changes. See, student, in that case, what happened, that milk is having some sugar that is called as the lactose sugar, and when it convert into the curd, so that lactose sugar converts into the lactic acid. So due to that, student, that the curd is here, and you can see that the chemical properties are changing. Exactly. So that's how, student, whenever you can say that the chemical composition is changing, some new substances getting formed, and you are not able to reverse that process, so such changes are called as the chemical changes. Fine. Now we'll see some of the properties and as well as some examples. So usually chemical changes involves a chemical reaction. And see, student, what happened whenever there is a chemical reaction. Okay. Whenever there is a chemical reaction, so always there is a formation of the bond, formation or breaking of bond will be there. Bond means, students, like you can see that whenever there is one compound, whenever there is some compound, for example, if we talk about H2O only, like if I talk about H2O, that is the water, so there is a bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen, student. So whenever there is a bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen, so whenever the water is undergoing in some chemical reaction, see, in the physical reaction, what is happening, that the H2O water form is converting into the ice form, or the ice form is converting into the water form, but no any other substance is forming. But if the H2O is reacting with some any other kind of substance, when it is undergoing the chemical process, so students, what happened, that the bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen will break down, or sometimes it will be possible that there will be the formation as well. So such type of reactions are called as the chemical chemical reaction. And whenever the chemical change is there, so always it involves some chemical reaction, which always which always result in the formation of the some new product. Okay, so that's why we are calling it as the chemical changes. So student, what we have seen, that whenever there is some chemical change, so it definitely there is some chemical property is going to be changed, and some new substance is going to be formed, and generally the chemical changes are irreversible in nature. Irreversible in nature. As you can see, here the iron rusting is one of the example. Okay, iron rusting, or we can say rusting of iron. Okay, because it could be better to say rusting of iron, or so it's like rusting of iron. Now student, what is the case in, like in the rusting of iron, like what happened, iron is a metal. I think all of you know this thing, that the iron is a metal. So whenever if you are having any iron nail, and if you keep that iron nail, or just forget about iron nail, like at this stage every student is having their own bicycles, exactly, and the bicycles are also made up of the iron part or metal part only. So whenever your bicycle is standing outside in the open atmosphere, and after some time, what you will observe, that first of all it was very new one, but when it is keeping the in the outer surrounding for a long time, so after some time what you will observe, that you will start observing some kind of the brown layer is going to be formed over it. Brown layer formation. At that brown layer formation is due to the presence of the iron, and when that iron is in the contact with the outermost surrounding, like the air and the water, so due to this there is the formation of the brown layer, and that brown layer is called as the rust. That is called as the rust. And this whole process is called as the rusting of iron, because in that condition what happens, student, now that iron is getting damaged. So and this process is not reversible, that you can't remove that rust. So that is why, student, for the rusting of the iron, like to stop the or to prevent the rusting of iron, some people do, like they start painting their bicycles, or like they start using some another technique, galvanization is there. So that's how, student, the rusting of iron is one of the chemical change, in which what will happen, that iron will convert into the iron oxide, and due to which there is the rust is going to be formed, and that's how the iron is getting damaged. Fine. Burning of wood. Exactly, student. If there is a wood and if it is getting burned, so what will happen, there is the formation of ashes only, and we can't convert back these ashes into the wood. Exactly. Or will you be able to convert it? No. So that's a, student, whenever the process is going on, and whenever you observe any change, and you will find out that change is not reversible in nature, even though some of the changes, you can say, like physical changes are not reversible, but when you will find it out that their chemical composition has been changed, and even though like chemical composition is changed and some new substances formed, so we call it as the chemical change. Like in the condition of the wood, new substances formed here, it is the ashes. And even the student, burning of wood is a kind of the combustion reaction, if you know. Combustion reaction, that the carbon contained which is present in the wood, it reacts with the oxygen, convert into carbon dioxide and release heat and light. So that is the combustion reaction, student, that you can see that there is a formation of the carbon dioxide, which is a different kind of the substance. So that is how it is the combustion reaction, student, and you can say it is a change in the chemical composition, and that's how we can't reverse this process. So that's why it is a chemical change. And even though, student, like heat and light, what like how I'm telling you, like whenever if you find it out that at some of the places, and even though if some of you have gone to for the fire camping, so what you have observed, that whenever there is some kind of cold weather, so we used to make some wood, like we use some wood logs, and we make some kind of mountain, I can say, small mountain, and we just start burning the wood so that we can get heat from it and as well as the light. So in that particular process, what is happening, that the wood is converting into the ash after the burning, and that's how new substances formed and some chemical composition is also changed. First of all, it is carbon, then it's convert into the carbon dioxide. Metabolism is the third example. Like whenever you are eating the food and your food is getting digest, you can't reverse that process. Exactly. Cooking an egg, oh my god. It's not about only cooking an egg. Everything which you cooked, you can't reverse that process. If your mother is making chapati, or if your mother is making vegetable, so you can't convert that vegetable back into the raw vegetables. Even though if you are eating some fruits, so you can't convert that fruit back into the apple, that is the what I can say, proper apple. Exactly. So the same thing is with the cooking an egg also. Whenever there is an egg and when you cooked it, when it converts into the omelette, so you can't convert that omelette back into the egg. Fine. Baking a cake, obviously when there is the cake has been baked, so what will happen, you can't convert back it into the bread. Exactly. And it is the electroplating. See student, in electroplating what will happen, that you will in an electroplating it what you will observe, that you will deposit that play like deposit the layer of the one metal over the another metal by the help of the electricity. So that's how we call it as the electroplating, and whenever it has been done, so you can't reverse that process. Fine. So that's why it is also chemical change. Rotting bananas, obviously student, whenever there is any fruit and if it is getting rotting, not only fruit, if you are having chapati, if you're vegetable, if something else, the eatables which has been rotten up, and you can't again use them, so that's how it is also chemical change. For example, like if I give you one example, you will say, ma'am, what you are going to tell us, but don't worry. What happened, like it's a long time back, like I got one chocolate, I don't remember that who has given me that chocolate, and I have kept that like chocolate in my bag, and it's just that I moved to my college, I moved to my hostel, and it's just that I forgot about it, and I have just kept that at one place. And after 1 or 2 months, when it was not in, like see student, what the chocolate is required, it required some refrigerating condition, freezing condition, so it will maintain its like it will maintain and we can eat it. But it's like that it is not getting any type of, because it was a summer time. So if it is a winter time, so it will be like that, it may remain as it is, but it was a summer season, so it just get rotten up. Like when I opened that wrapper, so what happened, like I was searching something and I find out my chocolate, and I was very happy, like oh my god, I am having now one chocolate, I am going to eat it. But what happened, like when I opened the wrapper, so it was like, oh, it's a yuck feeling. Why? Because it's not like that I'm disrespecting the food, but it's like that it is having some small kind of insect in it, because na, like the temperature which is required for that, it has been like totally changed, and it has been a long time, so that's why I can't eat it, and that process can't be reversed. If I will be reversed that process, like if I'll be able to reverse, so maybe I have eaten that chocolate, but it was not for me. So that's how even your fruits are getting rotten, or if any eatable is getting rotten, so you can't use up again. Fine. And there are any, like another examples also student, like whether, like whatever the chemical changes are going on, so what you will observe, that obviously there will be some new product will be formed. Like if I talk about my chocolate, so maybe that small what I can say, bacteria that was there, so it can be a new product of that. Exactly. So that's how there's some new product will form, and that process you can't reverse. So that's why they are irreversible in nature. Like we have seen so many examples right now. So what we have seen till now, that the physical changes are those type of changes in which physical properties are going to be changed, but the chemical properties will remain same. Like the chemical composition is not going to be affected because of this, and the physical property, like physical changes are somehow reversible, but chemical changes are not, because obviously student, their chemical composition is changed. And see, maybe there are some technique that we can change it, but like if we talk about physical, like if we want to change it physically, we can't. So that's how chemical changes are irreversible in nature, and some new substances formed. So physical and chemical change, and we have seen their properties and we have seen their examples as well. Fine. Now this is one question for you, and what we have to do is classify the changes involved in the following process as the physical change and the chemical change. Okay, so now we have to see that which of the changes are the chemical changes and the physical changes. So what we have to see that whether the physical state is changing or the chemical composition is changing, or what else we can see here, the any other factor, that whether it is reversible or irreversible. Fine. So if we talk about photosynthesis, so photosynthesis is what process, student? It is a process which is followed up by plants to make food. Exactly, to make food. And see, student, photosynthesis process, if we see that here, so it is a type of the chemical change, because we can't reverse that food back into the substance which like from where it has been formed. So obviously, student, these photosynthesis is a chemical change. Okay, now dissolving sugar in water. If you remember, I have already, like we have already discussed this thing in the physical part, like physical change part. So it is a kind of the physical change. It's just that what you have to do is you have to boil the sugar solution, and when the sugar solution get heated, so the water will convert into the vapor, and you will get the sugar, like sugar left behind. So that's how you can separate or you can reverse this process. Burning of coil. See, student, what happened in this case, that whenever there is a coil, so coil, when you start burning the coil in the presence of the oxygen, okay, in the presence of the oxygen, so what will happen, there is the formation of the carbon dioxide along with the light and heat. And students, what will happen, that you will find out that coil is converting into the ash. So what you will see, that the chemical composition is changing and the ash is getting formed, and you can't reverse that condition. Exactly. So which type of change it will be? It will be a chemical change. Fine. Now if we talk about melting of wax. See, if you ever seen that the candles which we use in our houses, and when they start melting, so what we get? Wax. And what we can do, that we again make the candles from that wax. So obviously, student, what type of change it is? It is a type of the reversible change. And reversible change is the property of physical change. So it is the example of the physical change, student. Fine. Now the E part says that the digestion of food, like we have already discussed this thing, whenever there is a food and when we eat that food, so many of the process, like whole digestion, like if we talk about the whole digestion process, that from the buccal cavity to the esophagus, then to the stomach, then to your intestine, like then is food is going to be digest completely. So that's how, student, there's so many processes going on which we can't reverse. So obviously the digestion of food is a kind of the chemical change. So we have observed, like we that reversible are physical and irreversible are chemical. So we have seen A is chemical change, B is physical change, C is chemical change, D is physical change, and E is chemical change. So it's alternative. So it's starting with the chemical. So it's like chemical change, physical change, chemical change, physical change, chemical change. Exactly. So that's how, student, you can observe the things and you can apply the properties, and like whatever we have seen about the physical and chemical change, and then you can identify that whether it is a kind of the chemical change or a physical change, and then you can give your answer, and that's how your every question is going to be correct. Fine. So, student, in this chapter, now what else can be asked to you, if I tell you that maybe they can ask you that what are the changes in the physical and the chemical changes? Okay. So, if we see some differences, chemical change and physical change. So, what I can say, chemical change is CC and physical change is PC. Okay. For the short form, CC and PC. So students, in the chemical change, what we have observed, that there is the chemical properties are changing, chemical composition is changed, chemical composition is changed. Fine. In the physical properties, what we have seen, that only the physical properties are going to be changed. Exactly, that physical properties are changing, but it's just that chemical composition will remain same, will remain same. Obviously, we have already seen this, like we have already seen this thing. So now it's the chemical change and the physical change. Now what we have else like noticed here, like in the chemical changes, some new substances formed, new substances there, but in the physical change, no new substances formed, no new substance is formed. Fine. And what else we have seen, that usually the chemical changes are irreversible in nature, irreversible. And what we have observed about physical changes, that they are reversible in nature. Exactly, irreversible and they are reversible. Fine. So these are the differences which we are finding out here. And in the chemical change, student, what you can see here, that the energy we can say that either the heat energy or the light energy. So the energy is getting, energy getting absorbed or emitted, like as we have seen in the example of the burning of wood. So whenever there is the burning of wood, like when the wood is burning, so what will happen, that there is the production of the ash, and along with the carbon dioxide plus heat, that the heat is going to be evolved out, and as well as the light. So what is the emitted, student? Emitted means emission. Whenever there is the release of the energy, like in the form of the heat or the light, so you can see that whether it could be the absorption or whether it could be the emission of the energy. So we call such changes as the chemical changes. But in the physical changes, it just required only cooling and heating. Cooling and heating, how, student? Whenever there is a water in some utensil, and if you start heating it, like boiling it, so what will happen, there is the formation of the vapors. But when you cool that vapors again, cooling is done, so it will convert back into the water. So these are the differences between the chemical changes and the physical changes which we have seen till now. Okay. Like in the chemical changes, it's just that the chemical composition is going to be changed, and the physical properties, that physical properties will change, but the chemical composition will remain same. And see, student, it's not like that, that we have seen in the physical changes that whether the state is changing or shape is changing. It's just that some maybe that we have find out that usually the physical changes are reversible, but all of them are not reversible. Okay. Like I have given you the change in the size of the plant, like whenever the plant is small and after some time you'll find out that it is tree. It's just that its length is changed, but you can't reverse that process. Exactly. So that's a student, the maybe like usually what we have observed on general basis, that the chemical changes are irreversible and the physical changes are reversible in nature. Fine. So this is what I can say, that this much we have to cover up in this session, and we have already covered up it. So I hope now every point is clear to you. And now, student, what else you can do is, like whenever you have watched this video, and after watching this video, any question or any query is there, like you are feeling any that I'm not getting this point, or what could be the answer of this question. So what you can do is, like you can post your question over the public forum and the private forum of the Ask IITians, and that's how you will get your answer. And this chapter will be complete in that way only, that when you are going to study it properly. And even though, student, we are left with some part of this chapter, and we'll continue with that in our next session. So till then, study well, and listen, like what I can say, that listen this video very carefully, and any question is there, put up that particular question over the public forum or the private forum. Okay. And then we'll meet in our next session. Thank you, and keep learning from Ask IITians. Thank you.